Why did the director of the Delhi IIT suddenly resign with 2 years left for his term? Well, the issue has snowballed into a major row, with opposition parties accusing the HRD Ministry of putting pressure on him over dues that are owed to Subramaniam Swamy, who taught at the IIT many years ago. However, other reports say it's because of an allegedly illegal MOU signed between the IIT and Mauritius to set up an offshore campus. But political parties like the AAP are saying that the director is being targeted for no fault of his. It is the latest row that has engulfed the Union HRD Ministry, and we're asking whether in fact it's become the most controversial ministry in the Modi government. Joining us on the program this evening, we have senior AAP leader Yogendra Yadav, who has also worked with the HRD Ministry in the past. Sambit Patra of the BJP joining us this evening as well. Mr. Yadav, let me ask you first. The AAP issued a very strong statement actually on the issue of the director of the IIT, saying that the HRD Ministry is misleading the country on the issue of his resignation. Why do you say that, Mr. Yadav?
We have raised a principal question of autonomy of academic institution. IIT is one of our premier institutions, which is run by an independent board of directors on which the government has a nominee. The question we are asking is, what is it that prompts the ministry or the minister to directly intervene in this matter? Assuming for a minute that the IIT director is wrong, let us assume he's wrong on all the issues being discussed. Why is it that the board of directors, board of governors of the IIT does not take a decision on those questions? Undeniably, the minister had a meeting with the IIT director. Undeniably, Mr. Subramaniam Swamy himself had a meeting with the director, with registrar and everyone. And undeniably, the resignation is a fallout from those meetings. Why this interference is our principal question. Let me hasten to add that BJP is not the first party. Congress's record is equally bad. But what are we doing to higher education institutions in this country by interfering the way we are? This is not the first time BJP is doing it. You had the DU earlier, you had the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and you've had the UGC. There's meddling everywhere. And what is this ministry up to?
Okay, all right. So the question is really then on principle, Sambit Patra. Yogendra Yadav says there is political interference by the HRD Ministry into the working and the autonomy of institutions like the IIT. How would you respond? Firstly, why shouldn't everyone just come clean on this, frankly, including the ministry itself, on what exactly were the reasons and the circumstances under which the director left?
No, I firmly believe that pressure because of your own wrongdoings should not be seen as pressure by the government. I mean, we are all aware of the fact, and Mr. Yogendra Yadav also, in a way, pointed out to the fact that if we assume that the IIT director was wrong on all counts, which he is, we are aware of the fact today that most of the things which were presented as facts were not facts, were wrong. If we had heard about Sachin Tendulkar's academy, to which the master blaster himself tweeted and said that no, this is wrong, this is not what the truth was. Today the concerned newspaper also has apologized on the count. So the IIT director stands wrong on this particular fact. Secondly, we are aware of the fact that an illegal MOU was signed, which was not supposed to be signed until unless the HRD ministry would have given a nod, the previous HRD ministry. You sign a MOU and you start an offshore campus, which even the IIT constitution does not allow. The rule books do not allow you to start an offshore campus. He starts that. And when the HRD ministry asks, if you have got a nod by the previous government, then please produce the papers. You don't have the papers. You keep on dilly-dallying on the issue. What do you want? The people have elected this government not to close the eyes on the clandestine activities that are going on everywhere. By the way, what is pressure? What is the pressure by the government? They should produce any paper if any paper was written to the IIT director to step down. But
Sambit, are you saying that this was officially the reason, the MOU with Mauritius and that academy was actually, that is the reason that the government is citing today, that your party is citing today, which is why the director left? Are you saying he resigned after he was confronted with this issue, or he was asked to go?
No. I do not know as to why the director left. If the director was on the right path, then the righteousness call is he should have fought the battle. He should not have quit from his way. But that he quits only amounts to the fact that probably he has acceded, he has conceded to the fact that, well, yes, I was wrong. But no one had asked him to quit. The government did not mount any kind of pressure on him to quit. But that does not mean that the government should not be asking questions. That does not mean government should not be asking the IIT director to produce a piece of paper which is utmostly important, in the sense that if you have signed a MOU with Mauritius, then that MOU should have had the nod of the previous HRD.
Let me take that to Yogendra Yadav. Mr. Yadav, we actually did call up Professor Shivgaonkar ourselves, and he is not willing to comment on this matter at all, at least not today. But Sambit Patra says that if something wrong has been done, if he was confronted with something that was perceived as illegal by the HRD Ministry, then those are valid questions that they have to ask. Now, you also, can you shed light on what the reasons were actually for his leaving?
Look, I have absolutely no idea what his private personal reasons may have been. All I can tell you is what we have heard, and Mr. Shivgaonkar doesn't want to talk about it. I do not know him personally. So what I'm saying to you is what I have heard, what is reasonably well believed. The funny thing is that, in fact, Mr. Patra himself has conceded the point that I was making, which is to say that yes, the IIT director was spoken to. Yes, the ministry directly intervened in the matter. All he's saying is that it was justified. My simple question remains, why is it that it did not come up to the Board of Governors of IIT? If the Board of Governors were to go into it and then say, look, we are telling the director doesn't listen to us. Or if the government feels that the Board of Governors has failed in its responsibilities, that is when the government comes. What is its business to come in here? Mr. Patra also conveniently forgets the other thing. While he happily talks about Sachin Tendulkar's academy, now incidentally, that's not a point which the IIT director has made. That's a newspaper's report which the newspaper has denied. The question about Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, which is here is a prominent politician of the country who has a problem with an institution. And that particular issue, the person belongs to the ruling party, and the minister directly intervenes in the matter, wants something to be done. The IIT director refuses to toe the line, and 3 days later he resigns. What do we conclude from this? This is the point I'm making. And I'm not saying that the IIT director was wrong. I'm simply saying, even if he was wrong, that's the point. But let's talk about the substantive thing of Mr. Subramanian Swamy's case as well, if you want to.
Yeah, you're talking about procedure and principle. So, Sambit, the point is, as Yogendra Yadav says, if it is an autonomous institution, that autonomy needs to be respected. And the ministry should step into any matter only at the very last minute. And let it go through a certain process which is there.
No, there are two questions that needs to be answered over here. The autonomy is one question, the Subramaniam Swamy's case is the other question. Let me first begin by answering the later part. As far as Mr. Subramaniam Swamy's salary part is concerned, we are all aware of the fact that it went through a legal course. It was in the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court, in fact, reprimanded none other than the IIT. Delhi High Court has asked certain questions from the IIT. It is a matter between the Delhi High Court, an individual called Subramaniam Swamy, and an institute called IIT. Where does the government come over here? If the Delhi High Court has opined something, that should not be taken as an opinion of the government. It is the legal opinion. So why are we discussing something which is not within the purview of the government? Well, yes, the government can always ask...
Can I come in here and just point out what the court judgment indeed was?
Let me complete.
Okay,
let me complete. And secondly, as far as the autonomy is concerned, tell me where the autonomy has been breached. We do not know as to why Mr. Shivgaonkar has resigned. No one put any pressure on him to resign. Only because Mr. Shivgaonkar has done something illegal. Does that mean that the government should close the eyes and should not ask any question? The government only wanted the relevant piece of paper.
Are you opening a probe against him? If you're saying that he's done something illegal, is there an investigation against him?
Nidhi, where does this whole thing go into a probe? The simple thing is
because if it's illegal, then he has to be held accountable for his actions. So no,
in a way, yes. Yes, the government had asked for the relevant documents. The simple question whether the MOU that you signed with Mauritius had the nod of the government or not.
So you're saying that Professor Shivgaonkar did something illegal. My question is, what follows from that then is an investigation, a probe, a case that is then filed against him. Is that happening? Has that been done?
No, definitely. I think a call would be taken by the HRD Ministry on this. If anything illegal has been done, surely the one who has committed the error would be the one who would be brought to books. But my larger question is, why? Why the UPA government was doing all this? It is not a very simple matter of an individual.
Yogendra Yadav wants to come in on the question of Subramaniam Swamy's case.
Please give me 1 second. And
let him just answer on this one specific point of Subramaniam Swamy's case, because the fact is, Mr. Yadav, the HRD Ministry also issued a statement yesterday saying that they did not refer this case to the director at all. It was actually to the Department of Personnel and Training, the DOPT, to whom it had forwarded this query on the issue of Mr. Swami's dues. So is it fair then for us to question whether this had anything to do with Subramaniam Swami and his past dues?
One or two things are very strange in the case. Mr. Patra doesn't know what the reasons are. But have you ever heard, Nidhi, a ruling party issuing a statement? This is what happened yesterday. The BJP issued a statement on this matter. So they don't know the reasons, yet they are casting aspersions on the director. This is how you destroy higher education institutions. Two, on the specific question of Mr. Subramaniam Swami's case, the court has said that IIT cannot withhold his payment. The court has not settled what the payment would be. Court has not uttered a word about the amount of payment. IIT is simply saying, yes, you are entitled to that payment, but what you earned during that period is what should be declared to us. Unless they had that declaration, IIT was not willing to go ahead with it. This is according to their statutes. Now, all the point I'm making is, if the director was wrong in this, let the Board of Governors of IIT take a view. On the Mauritius question, the director, from the best of my knowledge, this was brought to the Board of Governors of IIT. It was approved. They went ahead. If there is anything wrong, the government should write a letter to the Board of Governors of the IIT, should ask their clarification. This direct intervention, which Mr. Patra has not denied for a moment, please remember, he is not denying the fact that there was a meeting between HRD Minister and the IIT Director where Mr. Subramaniam Swami's salary matter came up. He is not denying the fact that the ministry was directly asking questions to IIT Director about the Mauritius case.
He's owned up to that.
Saying,
which then brings me to part two, Sambit, which is that, you know, the HRD Ministry today, unfortunately, is making headlines more for the wrong reasons in the last 6 months than the right ones. Why has the Education Ministry somehow ended up becoming the most controversial in the last few months?
But I have a very different take on this. I would say the HRD Ministry is doing all the right things, but people are trying somehow to make a wrong news out of it. And I was giving the example well before this. I was saying, well, we had a UPA government before this. Mr. Kapil Sibal allowed German suddenly to become the third language of this country, and the MOU was signed under the table. There was no nod from the government, but the KV organization had signed the MOU. Again, we see that the IIT Director is going and starting an offshore institute in a foreign land without the nod from the government, or a secret nod by the government, rather, I should be saying. So what the UPA government was doing is something which has to be undone now gradually. You cannot continue with illegal things in this country which does not, which are not permitted in constitution.
Why does the HRD Ministry keep making news for the wrong reasons? Whether it's circulars, whether it's Good Governance Day, whether it's the Sanskrit Rao, there is a whole list of them. There's a whole list. Those headlines are not made by the Defence Ministry or the Home Ministry or the External Affairs Ministry. Why is it only HRD that's making controversy?
Because the kind of controversy that were, in fact, kind of clandestine deeds, I would rather say, wrongful clandestine deeds that took place in the HRD Ministry previously has to be undone. If you say that doing something legal and undoing something illegal is making news for wrong reasons, I would not say this is the right question. But you're absolutely sure of that
an illegality has been committed by the IIT Director. You say that with proof and with authority?
No, ask the IIT Director. We stand by what we say.
Okay,
we have the interview of the IIT Director. We have the interview of the IIT Director which he gave in Mauritius, saying that he is opening a branch of IIT there. I have the copy of the IIT rules and regulations also, which says that IIT cannot be opened offshore. So tell me, who was right and who was wrong? Where is the MOU? Why 2 pages are missing from the MOU that has been circulated?
Yogendra Yadav, there are serious questions that the BJP is raising on the director's functioning. But at the same time, the question I asked Sambit Patra was why the HRD Ministry repeatedly, it's getting into a scrap, every week, almost every week there's a controversy. Why only this ministry, Mr. Yadav?
Some of these questions are indeed serious questions. They ought to be asked. All I'm saying is that Mr. Patra, his party and the ministry are not the right persons to ask that question. If we at all care one bit for these higher education institutions, which we feel proud of, please, for heaven's sake, allow them some autonomy. Autonomy means They may commit an error. Government comes at the last stage to correct that error. Allow them some autonomy. Let the Board of Governors of IIT interpret its own statutes. Let the Joint Secretary not override the Board of Governors. This is a minimum. And about the ministry, Mr. Patra somehow is under a wrong impression that he's having a punch with UPA, which is not the case, sir. UPA had a terrible record when it came to institutional autonomy. The manner in which they used institutions like the UGC, the manner in which they interfered with IIMs, etc., was nothing to be proud of. And all I'm saying is that your government is continuing that glorious tradition. Same kinds of interference. This would render all your higher education institutions utterly, they would be paralyzed if this is the way both the leading parties of the country continue to behave. One last instance. Yeah. The UPA wanted to establish inter-university center on higher education, education. And after considerable search, what did the UGC find? UGC found Kakinada. Kakinada was the place where the Minister of Higher Education was from at that point. And of course, the decision has been reversed by the new government, by the UGC. And what have they discovered? Banaras. This is the kind of interference I'm talking about from both ends.
I think that's an excellent point that you make
higher
there.
Education has no future.
An excellent point that you make there, Mr. Yadav. Sambit, last quick word to you.
Nidhi, in fact, Mr. Yogendra Yadav also says, might be there would have been some illegality that has been committed by the director. My question is, who asked the question? From an illegal functioning director is not important, but the question should be asked. Secondly, no one is taken up with autonomy.
If an institution is autonomous, that its board is allowed to function as an autonomous board.
Where did the ministry ask the IIT director
I have not said that he committed any illegality.
Why are you all interfering? You're not allowing me my time. Mr. Yogendra Yadav, I was not interfering.
Finish, yes.
My only point is, where did the ministry ask the resignation from the director? If the director was right, then the director should have fought it out. The ministry has the business of writing a letter to the DOPT, which the minister can always write. What is the wrong? I mean, minister can always demand a letter.
There should be a probe then. There needs to be an investigation into what happened.
Who says that we will not have a probe? Maybe there'll be a probe. Let's wait for a while. Let's be patient.
All right. Well, I'll have to leave it at that tonight.
And
Thank
Mr.
you very
Patra,
much.
Resignations are not asked on a written piece of paper. Resignations are asked in closed door, and people are shouted at when they ask for resignation.
Why did the director resign? I know the fact. Why did the conscience of the director prick him? That is the question. He must have, and he has committed errors. That's the reason as to why his conscience
or was it intimidation by the minister?
Show me a letter. Show me a letter asking his resignation.
All right. Well, as Yogendra Yadav said, these things are not often put in writing. These things are not often put in writing, and the HRD Ministry does find itself in the news again, once again, for the wrong reasons. But there are questions about the IIT Director as well that only he can answer, and when he does break his silence, perhaps he will have those answers for us. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the program this evening. That's it on Left, Right and Centre tonight. Thanks for watching.